Books, books. I like books. I'm gonna read them all. Hi, readers. Chris here. Today I'm coming at you with my first episode of Fantasy and Face Masks for the month. In case you're new here, my name's Chris. I review fantasy and tons of other books whenever I feel like it, and I have little furry friends who may or may not make an appearance during this video. Since this is my first face mask of 2023, I wanted to do an oldie but a goodie, one I've done before but not on YouTube, and that's going to be this Pearlie's Pumpkin and Ginger face mask. Now, I've already cleaned my face, put on a little bit of toner, so I'm going to attempt to put this on while I talk to you about the two books that I'm going to be reviewing today, which are A Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir and Crush by Tracy Wolff. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to hold a book and do a face mask at the same time, so I'll just put a picture up for whatever book I'm going to be talking about. And the first book that I'm going to do is A Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir. If you're not familiar with A Torch Against the Night, this is the second book in the An Ember in the Ashes series. I don't think there's another name for that series, but it feels like very long. An Ember in the Ashes. But I read An Ember in the Ashes, the first book, back in, it was either early 2021 or it might have been 2020. I'm not sure. And my thoughts about that book were, it was fine. Like, I thought it was a good YA fantasy book, but I wasn't blown away by it. And I actually did a buddy read of that book, and they felt the same way. So that's why it took me so long to read this sequel. But the setup of this world is we have a young girl named Leia, and she is what's known as a scholar. And in this world, like, the scholars are basically the poor people, the downtrodden. Think of, like, if it was Hunger Games, they'd be District 12 or District 13. They're kind of like the bottom of the bottom. And their world has been taken over by the ruling class known as the Marshals. Now, in the first book, Leia found herself, basically she finds herself in the company of these rebels, people that are trying to take the Marshals down from the inside. She goes to infiltrate this Marshal training camp, basically, where they train young people to be soldiers for the Marshal Army. There, she meets her other main character, this young boy named Elias. Now, Elias has been raised to be a Marshal, like, his whole life. He's been in this training camp. He's been raised to be a soldier. In fact, I think at one point, he was kind of being groomed to maybe possibly be the emperor someday. And Elias's mother is someone who's known as the commandant. And the commandant is like this super hardcore, like, really evil warrior for the Marshal Empire. She's kind of the emperor's right-hand man or woman in this case, and she is like a real nasty piece of work. And without giving away what happens in book one, let's just say that Elias and Leia end up meeting each other in this school, this training camp. And, you know, Elias kind of feels like maybe he should help Leia. You know, Elias isn't really all about, like, the Marshal lifestyle, being, like, super violent and super all this other stuff. So he decides he's going to help Leia, and one of the things that she needs help with is breaking her brother out of prison, because she has a brother, his name is Darren, who is in this high security prison. And that's basically the plot of book two, is Elias and Leia journeying to break her brother out of prison. That is the only plot line in this book. Well, I shouldn't say that, but that is what this book is about. From chapter 1 till the end, it's Leia and Elias traveling to the prison to break her brother out of the prison. Like, that's it. So on the surface, one could say not a lot happens in this book, plot-wise. And I'm going to interrupt myself because I've got stuff all over my fingers, and I I want to wipe it off. All right, so it says I'm supposed to leave this on for 10 to 15 minutes, so I'm just gonna keep talking about the book while it sits here. So, like I said, not a lot happens in this book in terms of plot. However, what I think this book does have going for it is that we get to spend a lot of time building Laia and Elias's characters. Because they spent a lot of time together, you really get to know them, I think, on a deeper level, like much deeper than book one. Even though we got their perspectives, like I just felt like there was so much going on. In book one, there's all these different trials, there's all this different stuff going on, and I feel like there's a lot of plot packed into book one. Because there's less plot, I feel like we got more character development. And if you know anything about me, I love character development. So I feel like that worked for me. And I actually think that I like A Torch Against the Night better than An Ember in the Ashes because of the character development, That's the thing that this book has a lot of. So if you are someone that likes good character development, you might like this one. If you didn't like An Ember in the Ashes, you might like this one better. However, if you're the opposite, if you loved An Ember in the Ashes, you might not like this one as much because not a lot happens in it. I mean, it's a pretty thick book for not a lot of plot in there. The other thing that I really liked about An Ember in the Ashes is we get another POV from this character, Helene. Now, Helene in the first book was basically Elias's childhood friend. So she's part of the Marshall Empire, so part of the bad side, if you will. And she's kind of been raised with Elias. They have been best friends since childhood. They have each other's back. And it's pretty clear in the first book that Helene feels a certain way about Elias. So when Laia shows up and Laia enters the story and Elias meets Laia, that kind of throws a wrench into their relationship, if you will. So when book two comes around, we actually get Helene's POV. We get her POV because Elias has gone off with Laia. Helene is left behind with the new emperor, and she is kind of at the mercy of having to do what she's told, or else like people that she loves are going to be in danger, meaning like her family. So her family, like her mother, father, she's got 2 sisters, and she's basically told like, hey, if you don't go and hunt down Elias because he's a traitor, like we're gonna kill your whole family. So she doesn't really have a choice, and I find her probably the most interesting character in this series so far. The most interesting. Because A, she's got this very conflicted story because she still cares about Elias very deeply. If it was her choice, of course, she wouldn't harm him. But she's also at a point where, like, if I don't capture him and bring him in, they're going to kill my family. And she doesn't want that either. The other thing that I really like about Helene, or I think makes her very relatable, is this whole, like, unrequited love story that she has with Elias. I feel like most people can relate to having feelings about someone or feeling a certain way and not getting those feelings in return. And, you know, Helene is... I feel like she's so relatable to anyone who's ever been in that situation where it's like, you don't want to say too much because you might ruin the friendship that you have. So you kind of hold it all in, but then no one really knows how you feel and like you're hurting inside. And I just think that her story and her storyline in this book it's really good. It's really good. I really, really like her. And she also has some mysterious powers that were revealed in book 1. They continue in book 2, but they still haven't really told us why she has them or where they come from. So there's definitely some more mysteries here that still have not been fully resolved. Another thing I really liked about this book was I think this book had a really great ending. It's got an ending that's kind of shocking. Like, a lot of things happen at the end for a lot of different characters that Some of them were hard to read because they were heartbreaking. Some of them were happy to read because you feel good about what happened to some of the characters. And some of them are mysterious. So you're like, ooh, what's going on there? So I feel like the ending of this book does a really good job of giving you like a range of emotions that are gonna make you want to run out and buy book 3. So overall, like I said, A Torch Against the Night, I personally liked this one better than An Ember in the Ashes for the reasons that I said, the character development, more Helene, etc., etc. But I feel like I might be in the minority, but that's okay. Okay, I think I still have a little bit of time left, so I'm gonna move on to talking about Crush. I will just say really quick that every time I put this mask on, I'm always surprised at like, it almost feels like it goes on as like a cream, but then it hardens, so it feels like I have like plaster on my face because it just like gets really, really tight. So anyway, I'm going to move on to Crush, which is another sequel. Crush is the sequel to Crave by Tracy Wolff. Both of these books I read last year. Crave I kind of read in the beginning of 2022, and then Crush I read at the end. The setup for this book is super simple. It's basically an updated version of Twilight. So we have a young girl, her name is Grace. In Crave, her parents were unfortunately killed in an accident, and she has to go move in with her remaining family who just happen to live in Alaska, where her uncle is like the headmaster at this school, Katmere Academy, and she also has a cousin that goes there. When she gets to Katmere, she quickly realizes that it's a little bit different than the schools that she's used to, because this school is full of vampires and werewolves and dragons and all sorts of mysterious creatures. And of course, when she lays eyes on Jackson, #1 hot vampire prince, of course she falls madly in love with him. Now, there's a whole plot in Crave that I'm not going to get into. It is going to be a little bit hard to talk about Crush without spoilers. So if I'm being vague, I apologize, but let me jump right in. So what happens at the end of Crave is that Grace basically, in order to prevent Jackson, her vampire love, from being harmed, she kind of jumps in front of him when someone attacks him. And because she did this, something happened to her where she was basically gone, let's say, quote unquote, for 4 months. So in the beginning of Crush, Grace wakes up. She doesn't think any time has passed because she does not remember anything about what happened. And all of a sudden, people are like, oh my God, I can't believe you're here. Where have you been for 4 months? Blah, 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 blah. And it turns out not only has Grace been gone for 4 months, but the reason that she's been gone is because she is actually a magical creature herself. I'm not going to say what type of creature she is because that would be a spoiler, but let's just say it's a creature that has not previously been discussed in the previous book. And it's a creature that like no one has seen for like hundreds of years. Supposedly they were all wiped out, but now she is like the first one that's been around in forever. And because she is this certain type of magical creature, she now has caught the attention of this group called the Circle. The Circle is basically kind of or supposed to be the governing body of like all creatures. So it's basically a council made up of like vampires, werewolves, dragons, witches, and previously there used to be other creatures on this council, but Jackson's father, the head of the king of the vampires, the head of the vampire council, wiped them all out. So the fact that Grace is now one of these creatures that they previously wiped out, like, she is in danger. If that wasn't bad enough for Grace, she also has another problem in this book, and that is Jackson's brother, Hudson. Yes, that's right. Jackson has a brother named Hudson. We met him in book 1. In book 1, he was the villain, I guess you could say. In a way, well, he was a villain in book 1. In book 2, something happened to him where His physical body is gone, but he's not dead because he is alive, thriving and kicking in Grace's mind. Yes, that's right, in her mind. So no one can see Hudson, talk to Hudson, do anything except for Grace, because Grace is the only one that can hear him. Hudson and Grace, wow, their relationship in this book is a journey. It's a journey. And before I talk about it more, I'm going to go wipe this off my face because I think enough time has passed, so I will be right back. Okay, hopefully I got it all. I'm sure I'll be able to tell in a few minutes when my skin dries. What was I saying about Crush? Oh, Hudson, right. Hudson. So Grace and Hudson have a very unique journey during this story because in the beginning, Grace feels a certain way about Hudson. She feels, because of the events that happened in the previous book, she has a very negative impression on him. And in the beginning, Hudson doesn't really do anything to help out that opinion. But as the story goes along, we start to realize that there is more to Hudson than meets the eye. More to Hudson than it seems. And that's really all I can say without going into spoilers, but let me just say that because of this book, I believe that Hudson is now my favorite character. He is my absolute favorite character in this series so far. I am a total sucker for a bad boy, but that who really has like a good heart underneath. Need I say more? Need I say more? I love Hudson. If I had to pick between Jackson and Hudson, I would definitely choose Hudson. The other thing I really want to mention about this book, which I think I said in a previous video, is that I really thought that Grace as a character really improved in this sequel. Really improved. In the first book, Grace was very much that Bella Swan type character where she was just obsessed with Jackson and did whatever Jackson told her to do and did not care about her own self-interest because about putting herself in danger as long as she protected Jackson. She was all about Jackson, blah, 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 blah. And it did get a bit eye-rolling at times because it's that's not what a real relationship should be. It's not I get it, it's a fantasy, it's romanticized, I get it, but it's not how a real relationship should be. In this book, however, even Grace starts to realize that maybe her relationship with Jackson is not what she wants. She says something in the book at one point, which is basically something along the lines of, I don't need you to save me all the time. I need you to help me save myself. I need to be able to save myself. I don't want someone to do this for me. I want someone to stand beside me while I do it myself. And I was so happy about that. To see Grace kind of have that agency for herself. I think that makes her even more likable. I still liked her in book one because she's funny and has all these other things going for her. But that really cemented me as yes, I love Grace. I love her. And I want her to be with Hudson now and not Jackson. But that's a whole conversation for another day. So bottom line with this book is I absolutely loved it. I loved Crave. I think I love Crush even more. This is quickly becoming one of my favorite series of all time. It still has all the humor that it has in the first book. It's funny. It's a bit ridiculous. It's over the top. And unlike Twilight, where it I feel like Twilight takes itself very seriously, this series does not. It knows that it's silly, it knows it's ridiculous, and it leans into it. It leans into it hard. So if you were looking for a vampire YA romance that is funny, over the top, super silly, but also will make you feel happy and gooey inside, I definitely recommend checking this series out. So there you have it. I have done this face mask, previously, and I am always so impressed with how nice and soft my skin feels afterwards. It was the perfect choice for the first face mask of 2023. So there you have it. Those were my thoughts on both A Torch Against the Night and Crush. Have you read either of these sequels? Have you started any of these series? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not already, please subscribe to my channel and come back soon for more bookish videos. All right, everyone, happy reading.